Now, in Bangladesh, we had a horrible cave-in in Rana. Now, this is the second major workplace disaster in Bangladesh in the last 5 months. Over 430 people were killed in this case. In Ashulia, 112 people were killed. I want to show you a video here from NBC News about the latest in Bangladesh.
It was on Wednesday that the 8-storey building collapsed, trapping as many as 3,000 clothing factory workers beneath it. The families of the missing surrounding the site, still waiting, still hoping.
Now, unfortunately, some of those hopes have been dashed as they just had a mass burial for bodies that could not be identified. They literally had them on flatbed trucks and had to roll them into the mass grave. It's just a terrible, sad sight. There's still about 1,000 people missing, so that death toll could be much, much higher over the next couple of days as they dig out of the rubble. Now, who are the companies that are using these factories in Bangladesh? And mind you, not all the factories obviously cave in or have fires, but Bangladesh, you'll see why they use that country and the facilities there in a second. But the companies that are using them are Disney, Sears, H&M, Walmart, JCPenney, Benetton, Gap, etc. Now, to be fair, Disney just pulled out and said they will no longer be in Bangladesh and that they're going to be far more stringent about the countries and the factories that they use. That's good news. Walmart, of course, every time says, oh, it wasn't us. In the fire 5 months ago, there was Walmart products in there, but Walmart says, oh, no, that was an unauthorized subsidiary, blah, 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 blah. Oh, golly gee, how did it turn out in there? Well, the reason it turns out in there is because it's much cheaper. And so they have a lot of pressure to go to those unregulated subsidiaries, etc. So, for example, how much does it cost to make a denim shirt here in the U.S.? $13.22. In Bangladesh, it costs only $4.70. How about the hourly pay of workers in the garment industry? Well, in China, which is, of course, they don't get paid a lot either, but they get paid $1 an hour. In Bangladesh, they only get 14 cents an hour. So you get a sense of why people are going to Bangladesh. Now, in the Rana case, the owner had built 3 extra stories on top without getting a permit. There was 5 stories in the first place to play the building. He built 3 on top without asking anybody. And then the day before it crumbled, police came in and said, this building is cracking. You can't have people go back in there. And the owner of the building said, nope, everybody go right back in there. It's perfectly safe. Don't worry about it. And of course, he was lying. The building crumbled. Now, here's where the story gets interesting, because here's where it diverges from the United States of America. And interestingly, it actually becomes a lot more progressive, which is amazing, because none of this sounds progressive so far, right? Well, the government has detained 6 people in relationship to the building collapse. 3 of them are owners of businesses in the building, and 2 of them are engineers that worked on the structure of the building. Now, that's action. And then the crowds gathered, and of course they were angry. And they had slogans like direct action. Well, that makes sense. And then they had slogans like death penalty. They're looking for the death penalty for the owner of the building. Wow. In fact, here was one of the garment factory workers, not necessarily in that complex, but in Bangladesh overall. He said, I want the death penalty for the owner of the building. We want regular salaries, raises, and absolutely we want better safety in our factories. Now, the owner of the building himself is a 38-year-old, also has a job with the government, has been arrested, and he faces up to 7 years in jail for what they have charged him with so far. They have not gone to asking for the death penalty as the people want. But listen to this. First of all, he was arrested. Second of all, he faces some very serious charges. Third of all, look at this report from the Associated Press. The Bangladesh High Court has ordered the government to confiscate Rana's property and freeze the assets of the owners of the factories in Rana Plaza so the money can be used to pay the salaries of their workers. Whoa! Now, can you imagine if that happened in the U.S.? Now, how many times have we had mine workers die in mining accidents? And how many times did we find out right afterwards it turns out the company's owners were ignoring safety regulations and that they had been warned about it? Did they ever get arrested? No. Did they ever face stiff penalties? No. Does anybody ever call for the death penalty after their workers have died? No. Do we seize all of their property and give it to the workers? No. I mean, in America, are you kidding me? Not conceivable. But look at what just happened in America. These tragedies aren't just in Bangladesh. Look at the explosion we had in West Texas at a fertilizer plant. 14 dead, over 200 injured, a school blown up, a nursing home blown up, all those property around it blown up. Did we even consider arresting the owner of the company? No, of course not. In America, corporations are always right. You die in an accident, and by the way, you know how much explosive material they had in there? 1,350 times the legally allowed amount. 1,350 times that allowed amount. Why aren't we arresting the guy? This is not, hey, you know what? You sewed the garments in the wrong way, or you stored or you packaged your material in the wrong way. This is explosive material we had in West Texas. When it explodes, people die. And you knew it, and you packed that place full of explosives, and you didn't take care for it. Now, in Bangladesh, amazingly, they apparently care a lot more about that. They care more about their workers, at least the government does in terms of taking action in this context, than we do in the United States. Look, I wish they cared a lot more about their workers and paid them better salaries in Bangladesh and had more safety precautions. And I think we have more safety precautions here. But when there are consequences and people die, the company is never held responsible. The owner of the company is never held to account. There's no accountability in the United States. In the rest of the world, when people die in these preventable workplace so-called accidents, there are consequences. In the US, if you're a major company or a corporation, there are never consequences. And that's a crying shame.